APBA Baja Offshore Series. Today we come to you from the Pamlico River in Washington, North Carolina for the Fountain Mercury Offshore Race. When you hear Welcome to North Carolina, you're probably going to think NASCAR country, but now you're also going to think Fountain country, as in Fountain Powerboats, the biggest name in V-bottom offshore racing. Reggie Fountain is on hand for the race at his factory today, so you know that he's got the pressure on. He wants to see a good showing from his fleet. Now, suppose you're in the hull of another manufacturer. Well, then you're probably thinking, win on Sunday, buy on Monday. And you'd like nothing better than a sweet win at the Fountain factory. Rich Lors, what do you think about that theory?
Dick, this is an even playing field for any manufacturer. In fact, the waters behind me, the Pamlico River, are where Fountain Powerboats test each of their models. It's extremely calm, it's fresh water. It's so calm that 25 years ago, I raced a tunnel boat in these waters. It's 5.5 miles long, the closest thing in offshore powerboat racing to a NASCAR short track. And here are our Factory 2 lineups, where Twisted Sticks has had quite a weekend. We'll explore that in a second. The Factory 2 lineup, it's virtually an even playing field as far as the boats are concerned. So, on a course with flat, calm water, you try to find the edge in the turns, right? Wrong. This mess is a result of Twisted Sticks looking for that edge. They rolled the boat during a practice session while working on the turns, as navigator Teresa Ostrander explained.
It's been a little bit of a weakness of ours this season, but we've been improving through the season. This was going to be a very busy short race course with a lot of turns in it. We were concerned about being able to turn extremely efficiently and keep ahead of the other boats. Obviously, we were fortunate that we found out what the limitations were for pushing the boat before there were 19 other F2 boats on our tail.
Well, let's go on the course and take a look on board one of those F2 boats. This is the Renegade, the F213. Now we're on board the F298 Treadwell Motorsports, and these boats are lining up now, getting ready for the start. As Rich pointed out, the Factory 2 class very even, and you can see that as they are bunched up, looking to the pace boat for the green flag.
One of the most dramatic sights in offshore racing, the start of Factory 2. When you have this many boats with equal speed capability, you know something special is about to happen. The boats are eager. They're trying to get straight across so that when they drop the flag, and there's the start, everybody had an even shot for the first turn. But look at the Sutphin taking advantage of a little bit better placement and a little bit faster on the throttle when he saw the flag drop.
Brian Kirby and Doug Lewis aboard the team Sutphin, the F21, and they are leading the pack now. But can they get to the inside of the course by turn number 1? If they look to their inside, they're going to see a lot of competition, not the least of which is going to be the F298 Treadwell Motorsports. In the lead, the team Sutphin, and on the inside of that boat is the Velociraptor, the F245.
Now, the team Sutphin is officially the fastest boat in the class, having set the speed record in Sarasota in a straightaway. But the Velociraptor in this calm water has a pad at the very bottom of his V. That pad, the boat seems to be getting up on it now. The water is so flat, and you can see Velociraptor showing a great turn of speed right now.
We're on board the Renegade, the F213, and boy, oh boy, talk about getting wet on a turn. Now you know why they've got visors in front of their face. They got soaked on there, but it didn't stop them. They kept going. They didn't miss a beat.
Inches mean everything in Factory 2, and here's a game of inches for the lead. You can see the turn strategy here. Sutphin goes wide. Brian Kirby leaving a lane for Velociraptor, and man, Velociraptor's all over it. Velociraptor took great advantage of that. That was a real miscue on the part of Brian. Look at the rest of the field. They're all taking lanes, taking a shot at this turn, but the turning is everything in Factory 2.
And you can see the disadvantage of the big field because a lot of these boats are fighting some afterwake, if you will. Extra lean, the F278, currently 7th place in the field, and there's still more boats behind him.
Moving up, F237 Wild Child in 6th place. F15 Fountain working his way into 5th place. And looking up to 4th place, we've got F221 Snapperhead coming into your screen.
And there's quite a battle going on there. It looks like the Fountain F15 is going to try to move up into 4th place if he can. And let's continue to go up front, and look at this matchup. Velociraptor on the inside with a slight lead over the 2nd place boat, the Sutphin.
Yeah, Brian Kirby wishes he didn't open the door the way he did in that last turn. In Factory 2, if somebody can get by you, they're very, very difficult to pass, especially from the outside. The Sutphin now has a longer track to contend with.
APBA Baja Offshore Racing is brought to you by Baja. Baja, speed changes you.
Go.
I've been everywhere, man. Across the desert, bare, man. I breathe the mountain air, man. Travel, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. I've been to Reno, Chicago, Fargo, Minnesota, Buffalo.
If the technology in SuperGuard motor oil can protect these high-performance engines, it can take you anywhere. Citgo's SuperGuard motor oil.
Panama, Mattawa, La Paloma, Pebble, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere.
Ignition sequence start.
For 41 years, this secret lake is where engines have earned the right to be called Mercury. Welcome to Lake X.
Go.
The Tar Heel State may be NASCAR country, but in marine terms, it's also fountain country. Over 250,000 square feet right here on the Pamlico River in Washington, North Carolina. At the Fountain Factory, you'll find everything you'd ever need to build, test, and maintain powerboats. The Fountain plant staffs some 370 employees. They build it all right here, from pleasure boats to racing machines. Quite simply, it's the largest high-performance powerboat manufacturing plant in the world.
And the president of Fountain Powerboats, Reggie Fountain, is overseeing one of his craft, the Mastery Engine Center. That's Reggie up in the helicopter, hovering over one of his boats.
Well, he's got to be at least pleased with the way it's riding. It's back in third place right now in the F2s. And as we said, that competition is so tight, it is wild. And look at this action going into the turn. Wow, F278 right out of turn 2, runs up to F238, the Twisted Sticks running back in 9th place.
That was an example of a little too much trim carrying around the exit pin of that turn. That boat's bow is hanging up a little bit too high to be trying to turn her in the way they did. But Twisted Sticks, considering the fact that they were underwater and full of crabs only 2 days ago, is doing pretty well on the course today.
They certainly are, and we must tell you that Bob Eubanks normally is the man on the throttles in that boat, but he went out of the boat when it had the accident the other day. He injured his shoulder on the way out, felt that he couldn't really do a good job, and it hurt a lot, so he is standing on the sidelines.
And here is the race for second place. That fountain that we looked at before, the Mastery Engine Center, is sneaking up on the Sutphin. Brian Kirby's left the door open, and coming to the exit pin, that race tightened up in a hurry. Virtually a tie for second place right now. That was another mistake.
Well, we can see that Sutphin has to use a little bit more strategy because riding out on the outside, he's got a little bit more of a course to cover. But meanwhile, the Mastery on the inside got a little bit light on that turn. They're going to have to watch that. Let's move to the middle of the pack. The F278 extra lead and the F238 Twisted Sticks battling for 9th place. Wow, you know, you look that far back in the pack, you don't expect to see this kind of competition.
On board the Twisted Sticks is racing legend Bob Teague from California. He stepped in for Bob Eubanks, but you know, what's happening right now, as you see, as you just said, virtually identical performance. It's a race all over the course. The amazing thing here is that Twisted Sticks shouldn't even be up in this race. They were underwater such a short time ago.
That's right, and that shows the determination and also the looking in the face of fear, if you will, from the other people on board that boat that were actually involved in that accident, and they're forgetting about it, and they're out there racing, and they are fighting hard for it. And there you can see Twisted Sticks is starting to move up a little bit more into it and try to secure that 9th spot.
And there's that inside lane again in Factory 2 class, where all the engines are 500 HP Merc cruisers. They have the same torque curve, the same capabilities. You got these nice wide turns here in Washington, North Carolina. The inside lane means everything. You got to stay on those pins.
And here we can see the team aboard the boat known as Renegade, the F213. They're in 7th place on the course. Now we're on board the F213 Renegade. Looking back at those three guys, remember they got washed down a little bit earlier. It looks like they've dried off in the wind.
Now, this boat is a Phantom built in Sarasota, Florida, but all the hulls in Factory 2 are very closely matched. They've got similar performance capabilities, and as you can see, the racing is very tight. This Phantom is kind of wobbling over some wakes left by some of the boats right in front of them.
We have two boats in good competition right here in the F298 Treadwell Motorsports and the F256 Sonic Racing. We're on board the Treadwell Motorsports team. That's Eric Treadwell and Jack Storrell out of Egg Harbor, New Jersey.
And also out of New Jersey, Doug Lewis, the throttleman on the Sutphin, has finally gotten Brian Kirby to close the door. They've gotten a hammerlock now on 2nd place in the Factory 2 class, and they're running a much tighter line than they did earlier on.
Meanwhile, the Velociraptor is leading. And as a matter of fact, they see that checkered flag. They will take the win in Factory 2. A good job of driving right from the start. They were in the race.
Your final results, the Velociraptor takes a hard-fought battle over the Team Sutphin, and then the Fountain Mastery Engine Center was in 3rd place. And the newly dried-out Twisted Sticks managed a very respectable 9th.
And in the battle of the manufacturers, Velocity comes in with a win in Fountain's backyard. You can bet that Joel Ross and Jim Hobart are pleased with that.
First and foremost, we'd like to thank our families, because without this, it wouldn't be possible. And Steve Stepp for building one hell of a boat as we saw today.
I'd like to thank all of our sponsors, too. We've worked real hard at this to get to this point, and we're glad to be here. And we'd like to also thank Reggie for putting on a great show here.
Yeah, great show.
And a great show put on by all those Factory 2 boats. Now, we've got Factory 1 action coming up as we take a look at them heading out onto the course. But first, let's check in with our Safety Spotlight hosted by John Tomlinson.
Safety is at the forefront of any APBA offshore event, and all of us racers have a great deal of comfort knowing that the APBA Offshore Stars Rescue Team is watching over us in the event of an accident. So today, we'd like to share our safety spotlight with one of the true unsung heroes of the sport, Stars Rescue Director Jim Poplin.
At each race site, we bring a minimum of 6 people to each race. We have 2 jump divers that are in Angel 1 at all times. We've got 2 additional divers that we keep out in one of the pace boats for additional support. And we have personnel in race control that takes care of all the medical data history that we have on every participant at an offshore event. The diving conditions in offshore racing, especially concerning the enclosed capsule boats, if the boats are upside down, they're going to be in what we call black water. And that immediately becomes a confined space situation, and we're going into a world of the unknowns once the boat is over. With the way that the race courses are laid out, we like to be anywhere on the race course in less than a minute. We got involved in racing in 1983 at our hometown in Chattanooga, Tennessee, doing a tunnel boat race. The next year we were doing 3 races, and each year it just escalated. And I think that the bottom line is that we love the sport probably as much as any other racer does. And that's why we come in week in and week out.
And as we take a look at Jim Poplin and Angel 1 flying overhead, this reminder from the Drambuie on Ice Extreme team: boating and drinking never mix. When the race ends, that's when the celebration begins. Factory 1 racing coming up next. Some of the pretty sights on the Pamlico River in Washington, North Carolina, where the patrol boats in these parts are, you guessed it, fountains, and the local authorities aren't the only government agency in fountains. Rich Lures has more in our performance report.
For years, offshore racing has been a testing ground for people on both sides of the law. How does the government keep up with some of the more innovative smuggling devices? Well, Reggie Fountain and I took a ride in something just like this to find out. Reggie, what's the purpose behind this boat?
For the Coast Guard to go catch the bad guys.
It's got a secret weapon and a 2-speed transmission.
Yes, it does, and that gives the diesel the kind of acceleration you need to have, makes it take off easy, and we can still prop it where they can run in the Coast Guard boats 73, 4, 5 miles an hour and respond to any emergency anywhere. And you know, we got the Navy looking at it, and of course Customs is looking at it. We sold a lot of boats to both of them before, and it's probably going to be a good boat for them too.
A lot more than pleasure boats and race machines like the Factory 1 boats we're about to see come out of this factory.
And speaking about boats coming out of this factory, as we look at the Factory 1 lineups, the F-118 stressed out, F-176 Race Motorsports, and the F-103 Taylor Motorsports, all fountain entries.
We're on board now the F-196 Hollis Motorsports, one of the quicker teams and one of the fastest rising teams in the class.
And not unlike the Factory 2s that we just saw, the Factory 1s are extremely equal boats.
Yeah, right now you've got a lot of adrenaline, and everybody's got the same horsepower once again, those 500 HP Mercruisers. And there's your start. As you see, a couple of guys weren't right there lined up equally across, and that's going to cost you in this sport because in these classes you can't make up distance as easily as in some of the quicker ones.
Well, look at the front of the pack. There's no breaking away. Not one boat has broken out. There you got 4 lined up straight across.
Yeah, right now we don't have an early leader. We have early leaders. It's a 4-boat race for the lead in the first turn pin.
And it's extremely close all over the field. We're on board the F-196 Hollis Motorsports. They get a little bit of a spray in the face. This boat won in Sarasota, Florida.
They're a new team on the circuit, and they were a little bit brash early on, saying they were going to be very successful and leaders by the end of the season. They're proving it right now.
They've really done a good job, and they've worked well as a team, and it's that chemistry between the driver and the throttleman that can make it a real race. Let's jump up front. The top 3 early on, the F-146 Freedom Offshore Racing in first, F-104 Mountain Dew right there going out of the camera range in second, and the F-106 Odie Fountain third. They're out of Newport Richey, Florida.
Now here's the stressed out in which the driver is also the throttleman. We've got a single driver throttleman combination in there, and on a short concourse like this, that can be a real advantage.
It's a battle for third. Odie holding on to third, but they are not going to hold it for very long. The way stressed out is coming up on the inside. Bow to bow racing up for the top spot. It is the Freedom Offshore nearest to you with the red and white stripes on the side and the F-104 Mountain Dew on the inside.
Back to that battle for third between F-118 stressed out and the F-106 Odie, and the stressed out just eking by the Odie. When you've got identical horsepower, you've got to be very tricky and very, very conservative with every asset you have to get any kind of an advantage here. We're looking at a 1 boat length change in position. Oh, he just hosed him right down in that turn, though.
Well, Odie chose to go to the inside, and they're going to try to take advantage of a shorter course if they possibly can, but I don't think they're going to be able to hold it in there too long because it looks like they're hitting a lot of wake action off the lead boat, but they managed to get by and hold the buoy line. Now they have really cut to the inside. A stressed out moved a little bit wider on the turn, trying to take advantage of the apex and come straight in on the straightaway.
Odie took a calculated risk in that turn. He ate some wake to get the inside position on the race course. That could be a key to who winds up in the lead in this battle.
Right now, Odie is chipping away at that, and we can see that boat moving up on the inside. Stressed out has to be aware. Now let's move back up to the lead. The F-104 Mountain Dew, the yellow boat right there in front of you, actually set the Factory 1 World Kilo speed record with a time of 81.849 miles an hour. But here, the F-146 Freedom Offshore is running down the world's fastest Factory 1 boat.
And once again, we see a Factory 1 boat leaving too much of a lane going down the straightaway. And of course, the F-146 Freedom Offshore took full advantage of that.
I'll tell you, the fans on Witchard Beach, they're getting a real show out here. We'll be back in a moment. On the course, the battle between Stressed Out and the Odie boat, and we can see now that Stressed Out has opened up a lead.
Stressed Out has stretched out his lead over Odie. He's back on the inside lane. He's in the catbird seat for third place. Now he has to catch the leaders, and the leaders are a little bit out in front of him right now. He's got his hands full because he was fighting off Odie and trying to do a strategy move with him. Meanwhile, Mountain Dew is taking a strong inside position on this turn. He's making a run for the lead right now, Dick.
Freedom is right on the outside, but he is on the outside, and that became very important on that turn because Freedom lost just a little bit. Now he's got to try to power on and accelerate as they hit the straightaway, but you can see as he tries to power on, the boat starts to get light one more time.
That was a very nice move that Mountain Dew made right there. And this late in the race, you would think that Freedom Offshore would have known to stay on the pins to hold that Mountain Dew boat back.
Strategy is everything. When you've got boats of equal power, you've got to really play out the strategy to the advantage of your hull, whatever you're going to ride best doing. In this particular case, they also know they're against Mountain Dew. This boat the other day set a World Kilo speed mark, so you're really going to have to figure out how to beat them.
That Mountain Dew, I think they were holding a little back, though. They seemed to suddenly have an awful lot of speed, and that gave them the win. Mountain Dew first in class in Factory 1, a beautiful piece of driving over Freedom Offshore and Odie. Stressed Out faded late in the race to an 8th place finish.
Well, here was the scene down near the docks, and what a weekend for Jim Arvis and Justin Halden, taking the win in Factory 1 after earlier setting a new kilo speed record.
It was a tough race out there today, though. We never got out of the throttle for an instant. If you got out, you were going behind. It was jump out front, stay out front, no room for any mistakes. That's the way we ran it, all out.
This boat is built so well it can turn on a dime. After the world's record-breaking event yesterday we performed, this is really the greatest weekend we've had in many, many moons. So here's to the do.
Other winners at the Fountain Mercury Offshore race, A41 Nemshoff Sports, a winner in the Offshore A.
A boat co-campaigned by Fountain and Buzzi Motorsports of Italy.
In the Offshore B, it was the B71 Shockwave.
And this is a boat with a history, the very first canopied Fountain. She first came out as the Dragon Lady, a quick boat and one with a wonderful racing tradition.
In the Super Stocks, it was the S1 Citrusine, Joe Black and Paul Whittier.
And the Citrusine loved this course this weekend. A fast boat, a fast course, great speed shown by Citrusine.
And in the Pro Stocks, the P10. Jim and Tad Kimes out of Lakeland, Florida.
All the way from Florida to Fountain Country, they did a spectacular job of grasping the triple-engine outboard class.
We're glad you could join us for the first ever Fountain Mercury Offshore race. Join us next week for more APBA action when we come to you from Riviera Beach and the Palm Beach County Offshore Grand Prix and Festival. And for more, click on to TNN's website, country.com. The APBA Baja Offshore Series is produced by Diamond P Sports in association with TNN. Dick Crippen for Rich Laws. So long, everybody.